Everybody made it okay? Are we awake and energized? Okay, welcome to Sierra 95. This is the second Big Book workshop retreat that we've had here at Diamond Arrow. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. I'd like to thank especially a lot of people who made this possible. Nancy for all the phone calls and hot meals that went along the way, and all the typing and all the other stuff that went to make this possible. I'd like to welcome all the people from the Peninsula area, from Reno, from the Santa Cruz area, from the Napa Valley area, Cloverdale area, and I think down as far as the Fresno area. So welcome, everyone. We have an itinerary here in front of you, if you want to take a look at it, and it'll give you a rundown of what we got planned for the week. So we start off at 8 o'clock every morning with breakfast, and then basically most of the workshops will start at 9. There's also a list of names of all the attendees and phone numbers and things like that. So tonight, just like to tell you, I'm an alcoholic, as you all know, and we're going to be going through this workshop. We're going to be using the text from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and we're going to be talking about the recovery process that's described in this text. As it applies to alcoholism, as it applies to drugs, and as many of us have come to see that it applies to many of the addictions that seem to go through our lives. For many years, I wandered from recovery homes to recovery homes, being a member of many organizations, trying to find a cure for this hopeless condition of mind and body. And I came to understand after many years that the disease was one of separation. You know, I always felt separate from. I never really felt a part of. And the way that manifested for me was that alcohol and drugs gave me that sense of ease and comfort. And that gave me the feeling of wholeness. And I found that in that life, nothing was ever permanent. You know, any desire I had was never, no matter when it was fulfilled, there was always another one. And so a number of years ago, a man came into my life who gave me an understanding through the text of this wonderful book that Bill W. wrote almost 56 years ago now, and which was based on the experience of these first 100 men and women. And what they described this illness as, they described it as a hopeless condition of mind and body. And therefore, what they set out in this book, in this textbook, in the text of these first 164 pages, was a spiritual method of recovery from this hopeless condition of mind and body. And I had many beliefs, many preconceived ideas, many prejudices about that sort of thing. But at that time, I was truly hopeless, and it was the end of the road for me. And when that man came into my life, it was the first time in years of going the circuit of all sorts of different things that I was able to get a hold, and this thing was able to come alive for me. And I was able to get the understanding I so desperately need. I never knew what was really wrong with me, and I couldn't find a solution for it. Many of you have been to some of these workshops before. Some of you are coming for the first time. So bring with you an open mind, you know, and the best way to ensure that you have an open mind is presume you have a closed one, you know. And if you're on safe ground with that, you know, you ask an alcoholic or an addict, do you have an open mind? And about half a second later, you get the response, yep. You know, yep, sure. The honesty I'm talking about is the honesty of the awareness of where you're at. Try and take an introspective look at yourself, you know. Be aware of where you're at, you know. Just be aware of where you're really at. Get that honesty of where you're at. Take a look at yourself. Try and see yourself as you really are, not as you believe you are. See, and willingness is, if you find something here, see if you have the willingness to take the action to do something about it. Okay, now as we go through this, as I say to many of you, don't believe anything that I tell you at all. You know, all of us have examples of being deceived by people, see, and of having other people deceive us and of deceiving ourselves. So don't believe anything I tell you at all. Just taste it and check your own experience. And go back into the text as we go through these first 75 pages over this next week together, and you build this sense of closeness with each other. And ask yourself as we go through the process of this investigation, is this me? Does this fit me? You know, and if you can see that similarity in yourself that these first 100 men and women saw, then you might be able to say to yourself, I must have this thing too. You see, unless I knew what was wrong with me, I couldn't embrace a program of recovery. I couldn't embrace the solution. And I never really fully understood what was wrong with me. See, the problem that the book states is that alcohol or drugs are only a symptom. See, now a symptom isn't the cause. See, and I always thought the symptom was the problem. See, and if you don't treat the cause of the problem, the symptom will always reappear. And that was my problem for 11 years. The symptom, which for me was drinking, kept reappearing. But the cause, which was this deep feeling of separation, this feeling of maladjusted to life, this feeling of full flight from reality, as Dr. Silkworth talked about, that was the problem. And therefore the solution was one of wholeness. Now how do you get that when you have a lot of closed minds around any spiritual concepts? See, so it tells us to keep an open mind on all spiritual concepts. So learn the difference, take a look at the difference between believing something and knowing something. You know, you can only know something through an experience. Anything you know is something you've experienced. Anything you believe is just a theory. And proof blows all theories. So ask yourself when you share or when you talk, am I sharing something that I really know? Or am I just verbalizing something that I believe? Experience becomes fact. And so if you can bring an open mind, honesty to bear in yourself, an awareness of where you're really at, and a willingness to just do that and take a look at that, then over this Eastertide, which the theme was A Vision for You, Resurrection, maybe you too can celebrate the joy of your own resurrection. And if you're a real alcoholic or a real addict of the hopeless variety, we must find the spiritual solution for this disease or we die. It's just that simple. It's just that simple.